Florida has a bit of a reputation. If you believe everything you read online, you might think this state is basically Jurassic Park, but with even more humidity. Some have even nicknamed it America's Australia. Gators on golf courses, sharks in every wave, snakes in the toilets, panthers stalking Publix parking lots. You get the idea. But today, we're going to find out what's actually dangerous. And this is not a fear-based list, and it's not only based on vibes. This is a ranking of Florida's most dangerous animals using real confirmed data, things like how many people are actually hurt each year, how severe those injuries are, and how likely you are to run into this animal in the first place. And yeah, this is a top 13 because we're all about lucky numbers around here. And I promise, I think a few of these are really going to surprise you a lot. But before we go further and explain the methodology, I want you to take a guess. Which animal do you think is in the top slot? Take a second to think about it. Got it? Alright, good. So here's how I came up with these ratings. I gave each animal a 1 to 10 rating in 3 different categories. The first is exposure. That's how common the animal is and how likely it is you're going to run into it. The next, frequency. That's how often people actually get hurt by this animal. And severity. How bad those injuries can actually be. Then I combined them using exposure plus frequency times 2 plus severity times 2. If you want the full detailed methodology, it's all going to be in the description. So with that out of the way, let's get into it with lucky number 13. At number 13, we have black bears. According to the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, Florida has a population of about 4,000 big, cuddly-looking black bears. And yeah, they absolutely do wander through neighborhoods, they raid trash cans and photobomb ring doorbells in the middle of the night. They're most common in Central Florida, the Panhandle, Ocala National Forest, and down there in the Big Cypress region, but they wander into suburbs all the time too, especially in the Seminole County area around Orlando, Volusia, and occasionally even parts of Tampa's north suburbs. But statistically, they almost never hurt anyone. In an average year, Florida sees 0 to 2 bear-related injuries per year, usually involving dogs or someone who accidentally corners a mother with cubs. And there are no recorded fatal bear attacks in Florida history, 0. So while a bear might look dangerous, in reality, it's mostly just a chill forest neighbor who wants your old pizza crust a lot more than your leg. At number 12, we have the American crocodile. Already kind of surprising, right? But yeah, Florida does have crocodiles to go along with our gators, but they are not the giant man-eaters you're going to see in places like Australia or the Nile River in Africa. Those crocodiles are legitimately dangerous and extremely terrifying. But Florida's American crocodiles are a species that is shy, skittish, and likes to avoid humans. They live almost entirely in remote locations in the southernmost parts of Florida, deep in the Everglades, the 10,000 Islands, Florida Bay, Biscayne Bay, and even parts of the Keys. Their total population is only about 2,000 or 3,000, and Florida crocs rarely even interact with people. And in all of Florida's recorded history, there's only even been a handful of recorded attacks on humans. Most are minor, and there has never even been a single confirmed fatal crocodile attack in Florida in history. 0. Absolutely none. But could a crocodile attack be severe? Oh yeah. This one is even only this high on the list because it does have high potential severity. If one did get a hold of you, it might be a pretty bad day, but the chances of that ever happening are almost non-existent. Encounters with crocodiles are rare, they live in the most remote parts of the state, far away from people. Their exposure and frequency are so low, they barely even move the needle. They're scary looking, but just not dangerous here in Florida. Number 11, wild boars and feral hogs. Wild hogs are everywhere in Florida. Every county except the Keys has them, and according to the FWC, their total population is somewhere between 500,000 and 1 million in the state. But despite some movies and old TV shows depicting them as these angry charging beasts, actual attacks on humans are extremely rare. So rare, in fact, that the FWC doesn't even bother keeping an annual injury database, because nothing regular enough even shows up. Now, there will be the occasional story of a hunter getting hurt after cornering or injuring one, and theoretically those tusks and its sheer size and power could do some real damage if it wanted to. But the average Floridian really has nothing to worry about with wild boars. except for property damage. That's going to be the real issue with them. They dig up lawns, they tear apart golf courses, they destroy farmland, and harm native wildlife habitat. But despite the Hollywood reputation, boar attacks on humans are extremely rare. Now, boars can be dangerous when provoked, especially around their piglets, but most of the time, they're just gonna run away. Their property damage is legendary, but their human injury rate is tiny. Number 10, venomous spiders. Spiders are one of those things that a lot of people really fear, and I should know because I'm married to a serious arachnophobe. But in reality, the actual danger is far overblown and outweighed by their creep factor. And I do get it, spiders can be really creepy. And yes, we do have the mildly venomous black widows here that look like they walked right out of a Tim Burton movie. But medically significant spider bites in Florida are really rare. Most of the spider bites you see on social media are actually just infections, fire ant stings, or something entirely different. And the most infamous spider here, the brown recluse, very, very rare. Florida doesn't even have an established breeding population here. But they do show up occasionally after hitching a ride inside storage boxes or moving trucks, but our hot, humid climate isn't their thing, so they've had trouble putting down roots here. Now, lots of suspected brown recluse bites are reported to poison control in Florida every year, yet very few are ever confirmed by finding an actual spider. Most suspected brown recluse bites just turn out to be a staph infection or something else that's totally unrelated to spiders. So yes, spiders are scary looking, but statistically they're almost harmless. This is a great example of fear just not really matching reality, and the vast majority of spiders here are perfectly harmless little pest control workers. They're the good guys. But try telling that to my wife. The one time we found a black widow in our garage, she basically wanted to burn the house down and spray Raid all over the ashes. That's a true story. And at number 9, we have sharks. Okay, number 9. Raise your hand if you thought sharks would be a lot higher. I bet there's some of you who thought this was number 1, right? And I can't really blame you. Florida is the shark bite capital of the world, and most of that reputation comes from Volusia County, especially around New Smyrna Beach. Shark bites make the news, even the minor ones, and the reason they make the news is because they're rare. They're newsworthy, and that's the key. Most shark bites in Florida are what experts call exploratory bites or mistaken identity bites. Usually from blacktip sharks, they see movement in the water, think you might be food, take a quick sample, and immediately let go when they realize you're not. Now, Florida averages around 14 to 20 shark bites per year, and most of them are pretty minor. Surfers who've been bitten often describe it as similar to a dog bite, painful, maybe you'll need a few stitches, and you get a cool story for the rest of your life. As for fatalities though, they are extremely rare. But when they do happen, they become high-profile stories that stick in people's minds, so a lot of people think they're a lot more dangerous than they really are. Florida's last fatal shark attack was back in 2010 when kiteboarder Stephen Schaefer was killed by what most experts now believe was either a bull shark or a tiger shark at Stewart Beach. And yeah, that is nightmare fuel, enough to keep at least a few people out of the water, I bet. But here's why sharks land so low on our danger list. Sharks have fairly high exposure. Lots of people in the water, lots of sharks in the water, swimming near those people. And moderate severity because a big shark can do real damage. But the frequency of serious incidents is low, really low, and that drags their total danger score way down. Number 8, stingrays. Okay, so who out there thought that stingrays, the shark's smaller and flappier cousins, would rank even higher than sharks? But stingrays are incredibly common along Florida's Gulf Coast. They love shallow water, and humans love shallow water, so you can start to see the problem here. Florida sees about 3,000 to 8,000 stingray injuries per year, usually from people stepping on one that's buried in the sand. The pain is intense, it's hot, stabbing, and unforgettable. Infections can occur if a barb fragment breaks off and stays in there, and in some rare cases, a particularly bad wound could require minor surgery to remove the barb. But here's the key. Stingray injuries hurt, and they hurt a lot. You'll never forget the pain. But they rarely require much medical attention other than some hot water and maybe some antibiotics, and they are almost never fatal. In fact, Florida only has one recorded stingray fatality on record in all of history. And just to put this in even more perspective, worldwide, the whole globe here, there has only been about 20 documented cases where someone was actually killed by a stingray's barb. It's incredibly rare, which makes what happened to Steve Irwin even more insane. Such a freak accident. And Florida's one single fatality wasn't even a sting or a venom or the tail at all. In 2008, a spotted eagle ray leapt out of the water and collided with a woman riding a boat in the Keys, causing fatal blunt force trauma.
This is the 75-pound stingray that flew out of the water in the Florida Keys. It struck a woman in the face, killing her.
Like a tragic, crazy freak accident, and it's the only recorded ray-related death in Florida. Number 7, jellyfish and their cousin, the Portuguese man-o-war. Jellyfish are one of the most common hazards of Florida's beaches, and on some of the worst days, lifeguards have been known to treat hundreds of stings in a single day. During one particularly nasty jellyfish bloom in June of 2018, Volusia County once treated over 3,000 stings in a 2-week period.
Today, Beach Safety reports more than 550 people were treated for jellyfish stings. That's more than 5 times the amount on Saturday, when 107 people were impacted. You can see just how prevalent the problem is.
The tentacles deliver a neurotoxin described as getting branded, being electrocuted, and being lashed with a flaming whip all at once. And my family likes to joke that my wife Shannon has a secret superpower to summon jellyfish whenever we go snorkeling on vacation. Snorkeling in the Bahamas, she got stung. Grand Cayman, stung. Down in Cozumel, also stung. Peacefully looking at a shipwreck in Aruba, of course she got stung. But weirdly, she's never been stung here in Florida, which kind of seems like a statistical miracle. But despite the sheer number of stings, hospitalizations are pretty rare and deaths are virtually non-existent. Florida doesn't have the deadly box jellyfish like they do down in Australia. We just have the normal, painful, beach day ruining, scream-inducing kind. But they still manage to creep up this high on the list just due to their super high frequency. Florida sees tens of thousands of jellyfish and man-o-war stings every single year, so while they're not sending many people to the hospital unless they have some kind of allergic reaction, they are out there doling out a lot of punishment to a lot of people every year. Alright, number 6, the one you've been waiting for, alligators. Okay, so who thought this was going to be number 1? Be honest, I know a few of you did. And sorry, I know this is going to upset some of you, but alligators are not Florida's most dangerous animal. They're not even in the top 5. Yes, they're intimidating and scary looking. Yes, they can kill you. And yes, Florida has over 1.3 million of them. But attacks are very rare, especially when you consider how common they are and how close they come in contact with people. Every lake, river, stream, golf course water hazard, and retention pond has them. But despite all that, Florida averages only 7 to 10 medically significant gator bites per year, and fatal attacks average only about 1 every 2 or 3 years. And many of those involve pets, people getting a little too close, or doing something like provoking one, maybe even accidentally, during their mating season when they are very territorial. But they're this high though because alligator bites are extremely severe, and that's why they get a high severity score. They have one of the strongest bite forces in the entire animal kingdom, but their frequency score is one of the lowest on the entire list. Bites are still so rare they're almost statistically invisible. So we have lots of gators, lots of people being exposed to them, lots of potential for a bad outcome, but they're not actually out there biting people, so the danger level goes down a lot. There's a reason some lifelong Floridians even call them swamp puppies. They look scary, they're everywhere, and their bites can be devastating, but statistically, they are just outside the top 5 of Florida's most dangerous animal. Number 5, venomous snakes. Now, before we go all full danger mode here, it's important to say this. Most snakes in Florida are the good guys, and it's great to have them around. They eat rats, mice, bugs, invasive species, basically all the critters we don't want in our homes. Non-venomous snakes make up the vast majority of Florida's snake population, and they want absolutely nothing to do with us. They're the free pest control employees nobody appreciates. But venomous snakes can be a real hazard. Florida sees 200 to 400 venomous snake bites per year, placing us in the top 3 states nationally. And these snakes aren't really trying to hurt you. Most are defensive strikes when someone accidentally steps on one, reaches into a brush pile, or even tries to pick one up. Don't do that. Most bites come from rattlesnakes, cottonmouths, and copperheads. Coral snake bites are very rare, but they can be extremely dangerous if untreated. Those snakes look pretty and they're very chill, but their venom packs some serious heat. Around 100 to 150 people in Florida require hospitalization annually, and 10 to 20% of serious rattlesnake bites do result in long-term complications, tissue loss, nerve damage, even partial amputations. But thanks to modern antivenom, deaths are really rare, usually less than 1 per year, occasionally 2, but the medical damage can still be severe. Number 4, fire ants. Are you surprised by this one? I don't think I was. I actually hate these things. I hate them personally, passionately. If I could just snap my fingers right now like Thanos, I would absolutely make these things disappear. And fire ants are one of the most dangerous animals in Florida. Yes, fire ants. And once you see the numbers, it does make perfect sense. The red imported fire ant is everywhere in Florida. It's on lawns, sidewalks, playgrounds, parks, beaches, sports fields, campsites. If it's outdoors and it touches dirt, fire ants own it. And in heavily infested areas, studies show that 30 to 60% of Florida residents get stung at least once every year. That means millions of stings annually in Florida alone. And most stings, they just suck. They leave those burning welts and white blisters that stick around and itch for a week. It's terrible. But here's the part most people don't know. 1 to 6% of people will develop severe allergic reactions to fire ant venom. That's tens or hundreds of thousands of people at risk. Fire ants actually send hundreds to thousands of Floridians to the ER every year. And yes, people do die. Florida has had at least 22 documented fatalities from fire ant stings, more than any other state. And speaking of those statistics, I have once personally contributed to those. I once stepped into a fire ant mound barefoot in my own yard, and I ended up at urgent care because I could hardly walk. My feet swelled up like a couple of footballs. It was terrible. So needless to say, this is the animal on the list that I have a personal vendetta against, and I would just love it if we could eradicate them all from Florida and everywhere else.
I say we take off and nuke the entire site from orbit. It's the only way to be sure.
Number 3, stinging insects like bees, wasps, and hornets. So does anybody else remember that Africanized killer bees hysteria of the 1990s when these things were all over the news? Anyone else remember that? Back then, the invasion of the killer bees felt like the existential threat facing America.
Deadly invasion, the killer bee nightmare. This will be a true story.
Simpler times. Well, the media hype for that was definitely overblown, but Africanized honeybees are actually in Florida, mostly in the southern half of the state, and yes, they can be more defensive than the European honeybees you see on farms. But despite all the hype, Florida has had only 1 confirmed killer bee fatality, and that was way back in 2008, and there have been a handful of other incidents where people were injured by a swarm of them. But the real danger? Regular bees and wasps.
No, not the bees! Not the bees!
Thousands of Floridians do get stung every year, just mowing the yard, gardening, or annoying a yellow jacket who thinks your soda now belongs to him. And most stings are just painful, they hurt, you get better. But allergic reactions are the real game changer here. Florida sees an estimated 3 to 8 deaths per year from stinging bugs, mostly from severe allergic reactions. That's more annual fatalities than alligators, sharks, bears, and snakes combined in most years. And because these insects are everywhere, in neighborhoods, parks, garages, playgrounds, picnic tables, trash cans, exposure to them is incredibly high. They're everywhere people are. So yeah, the killer bee hysteria of the past was pretty overblown, but the everyday threat from stinging insects is real, sneaky, and surprisingly dangerous. Number 2, deer. Yeah, the second most dangerous animal in all of Florida isn't a predator. It's not gators, sharks, snakes, or anything with fangs. It's deer. Yeah, Bambi. Sweet little Bambi is out here causing more chaos in Florida than almost every scary animal combined. And it's not because deer attack people, although I guess a startled buck could theoretically give you a bad day with those antlers, but it's because deer jump in front of cars with the confidence of someone who's never taken a physics class, and they cause thousands of car crashes every year. According to insurance industry data, Florida averages 9,000 to 15,000 deer-related collisions every year, and some estimates suggest the true number could be up to 100,000 since a lot of them go unreported. These crashes cause hundreds of injuries and 4 to 10 deaths annually in Florida, more than all of Florida's predators combined. And Florida's numbers are actually on the low end of that nationally. According to the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, deer-related collisions kill over 400 people a year in the United States. That is a staggering number, and it's more than sharks, gators, bears, snakes, spiders, and crocodiles combined every single year. And it's not just the injuries, they cause a massive amount of property damage too. Even crashes that don't injure anyone can cost thousands in repairs. A deer can total a car instantly, deploy airbags, shatter windshields, and cause multi-vehicle accidents. Sometimes people swerve to avoid a deer and end up in oncoming traffic or wrapped around an oak tree instead. This is Florida's biggest hidden danger, the threat you don't even think about until it's too late, because unlike other animals, deer don't warn you, they don't hiss at you or rattle a tail, they just appear in your headlights like a jump scare. Okay, we finally reached number 1, Florida's most dangerous animal, and honestly, it's not even that close. It's not gators, it's not sharks, it's not snakes or bears or anything with claws or fangs. It's the mosquito. Florida takes mosquitoes so seriously that many counties literally elect a mosquito control commissioner. You know an animal is a real problem when there's an elected official whose only job is trying to keep them under control. And across the state, more than 60 mosquito control programs operate year-round. These districts have scientists, inspectors, labs, surveillance teams, and fleets of trucks. Some counties even use aerial spraying from helicopters during peak season, like a scene out of Apocalypse Now. I love the smell of larvicide in the morning. Smells like victory. But this isn't just pest control, this is a statewide, multi-million-dollar public health operation. And when's the last time you saw a jellyfish control commissioner on a ballot? Exactly. Florida doesn't mobilize helicopters over anything that isn't a real problem. And there's a reason for that. Mosquitoes in Florida aren't just annoying, they carry lots of diseases. In recent years, Florida has seen over 1,000 dengue cases in a single year, confirmed locally acquired dengue infections in multiple counties, West Nile virus cases reported yearly, eastern equine encephalitis in rural areas, and even occasional local malaria transmission. Yeah, yikes.
2 more malaria cases confirmed now in Florida. That makes 6 cases now overall in the state.
Now, we know that for most people, a mosquito bite is just a minor annoyance. On its own, it's not a big deal and not even nearly as bad as a fire ant sting. And most of us who get bitten never get ill, but when these diseases hit hard, they can cause high fever, neurological symptoms, long hospital stays, and in rare cases, life-threatening complications. And while deaths are uncommon, public health officials confirm these viruses can kill or permanently disable people. And that's why Florida keeps such an aggressive mosquito control network in place to prevent outbreaks before they can spread. Without these programs, it could be so much worse.
If we weren't out treating mosquitoes here in Lee County, this place would not be livable.
But the biggest reason mosquitoes rank so high is simple math. You're not likely to be attacked by a bear, you're not likely to be bitten by a gator, stay out of the ocean and you'll avoid sharks, rays, and jellyfish. You may never even see a venomous snake, but you will be bitten by a mosquito, maybe even today and definitely this summer. The exposure is universal, the frequency is constant, and the potential severity, while rare, is very real. And this combination makes mosquitoes the undisputed #1 most dangerous animal in Florida. We literally elect people to fight them. We have helicopters, drones, and fleets of trucks to control them, and they still manage to bite us all anyway. Okay, so thanks for watching. That's the list. Hopefully you learned something, and hopefully you got a few surprises out of this. I learned a lot too. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, or if you learned something new, hit that like button. Please subscribe. It really means a lot to me. I'm trying to hit 100,000 subscribers, and help me keep exploring the wild, weird, and wonderful side of Florida. Until the next one, please stay safe out there, use your bug spray, and I'll see you around the Sunshine State.